Hey everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nissa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. The neighbours have a tractor out, so the dogs are barking incessantly, which is always fun. It is Friday. Let's start our week of video here, because I don't know, I do have a week of cooking that was actually prior to the one that I've most recently put out. I will edit that and get that going. I need to do the solar and everything, but we covered everything up with the tarp because there was rain, and it's been a week. It has been a week. My kitchen is a pigsty because we've got that new sink put there, but the fitting didn't fit the drain pipe, and then we are rearranging putting the other cabinets in, so I've got nowhere to put my dishes at the moment. It's all just, normally I'm pretty even keeled about everything being in flux. Like, you sort of have to be in a situation like mine. They're just in flux for a long time, but I'm going a little bit mental. I came home yesterday and I had forgotten to pull anything out for dinner, so I quickly whipped up some dinner rolls, some bread rolls, because I thought I'll just use the frozen chicken patties that I've made and we'll have chicken burgers, except that I mixed the dough up, it was warm, it was pleasant, and then within like 5 minutes of mixing the dough up, the temperature dropped to like 10 degrees, and I don't have a proofing box set up and I couldn't get it proofed. So then I threw the bucket in the fridge thinking that today I could pull it out this morning and just let them do their second proof, except that nothing worked real well. So we've got these rolls here. I don't know, they look okay, they smell okay, but we will see what they're like inside. So I've cooked them up anyway, we'll do what we do. In the meantime though, it is Karvik's job to collect the eggs from the chickens. Karvik is 10, and it is his job to go in and collect them all from the nesting boxes. We have multiple pens and all the rest of it. Obviously he was a bit slack, because Sonnet went in to do a double check and to scrape out the nesting boxes and stuff for me and found 55 eggs. Now, we have a lot of chickens and there's no goannas at the moment, so we do get a lot of eggs, easily a dozen to 2 dozen a day. So it's less than a week of not checking properly. So what we've been doing is we've been checking them and using them up fairly quickly to get them through them. So I have a container of cottage cheese in the fridge that I bought for something and I didn't get around to using it. It's unopened. I don't know what the date is on it, but it's unopened, so it'll be fine. And it says April, used by April, but the foil seal is still sealed, so we'll open it up and we'll double check, but it should be fine. And I got Sonnet to crack me 24 eggs. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this cottage cheese, some seasonings, and some grated cheese and stuff into my eggs. I might blend this because I prefer it blended. I might stick it all in the Thermomix. I might stick the eggs and this and everything in the Thermomix and then stir the cheese through, and just make some egg bites. Now, I did get some silicone muffin liners from Mum when we were cleaning out Mum's place, and I don't know where they ended up. I think they might still be in a box somewhere, but I do have these Kmart silicone trays. Now, they're a bit bigger than a muffin, 1.5 to 2 times the size of a muffin. I'd say 1.5 probably, but they will be fine. So we're going to use those, and they will be egg rectangles instead of egg bites, but that's fine. Just to get this used up, the kids will enjoy it. I don't know that I've got any sort of ham or anything available to go in them. It might just be cheese based. I'll have a look. I might have some bacon, but I don't really feel like cooking the bacon first, and I don't know if I've got any ham. I'll see what I've got in there. I did just go through the freezers and pull out a whole bunch of stuff for the next few days, whatever. I pulled out some ossobuco, some chuck pieces, some chicken breasts, some chicken thighs, and some mince, and I don't know what I'm doing with any of it, but I need it defrosted to be able to do anything with it, so that's what I've done. I've just pulled out a range of things to use, and we will figure it out. So let's get these eggs things sorted first, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so that's perfectly fine. See, haven't got my mic on, but it's in the general vicinity of me. So yeah, perfectly fine, because the foil was still sealed, everything was still sealed, and it was in the bottom of the chest fridge, so it was nice and cold. Now this is 500 grams, so I am winging this. We've got 500 grams of cottage cheese with the 24 eggs, and we're just going to blend this all up. I'm going to add some pepper, some salt, and not much else. We're just going to go really simple just to use up these eggs. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I actually found half a jar of caramelized onion jam in the fridge. I'm not going to open a fresh one, but I am going to mix that one through. Alright. And then I'm going to pour it into a jug just because it's easier to precise pour from this than the Thermomix bowl. And as I said, the kitchen is just atrocious at the moment. So, and then I'm just going to just over half fill each one. Because it will increase, but then it will collapse as well. So it doesn't need to have too much space. I did see someone who made these and froze them raw and then baked them from frozen. I do want to try that when I've got some extra eggs again too, as an experiment. Alright, I'm going to need another tray. So I had some solid in the bottom, which I knew would happen, so I split them between the containers as well, and I have some of this frozen pepperoni, so I'm going to dice it up and sprinkle it in some like this, just a few bits in it. I'm going to leave this first one plain and just do the other two just like that. Super simple. All right, and then I'm going to put a sprinkle of, I just grabbed pizza cheese out. It's not the tastiest cheese, but it's got the best texture for melting and stuff. So pizza cheese, and I'm just going to put a generous sprinkle on top of all of these. And we will cook them up and we'll see how everyone likes them. So at 24 eggs and the 500 grams of cottage cheese, and we got 18. Alrighty, it is Saturday. I don't even know if I filmed what the rolls looked like in the end or the egg bites looked like. I have no idea what I got and what I didn't. But basically, the sun is in a really bad spot at the moment. Basically, the day got away from me. And it's, you know, we just, man, this is the best time to be doing the projects that we're doing because it's the end of the shopping period. So it's not like I'm preserving food or anything like that. So it is the best time to be doing it, but it's also the time when making meals takes a little bit more effort because we're down to not a whole lot. Like, we've got plenty of food, but it all requires thought and planning and all the rest of it. So it's hard. So we're moving shelving so that we can move the kitchen. But to move the shelving, we have to empty and clean the shelves and then restack them somewhere else because there's nowhere else to put anything until such time as we figure out where those shelves are going to go back to and stuff like that. So we're just Tetrising stuff from one spot to another spot to another spot to another spot, and it's driving me nuts. We did get the wall off here. That's the bathroom wall that normally has all that yellow roofing iron on it. We pulled all the yellow roofing iron off and we bought some ply to put up there because the wooden kitchen bench will be up against that, and then discovered that we didn't have the right screws to put the ply up. So we've pulled all the roofing iron down and given it a blowout and a clean, and then we can't put the ply up. So Daryl's got church tomorrow. He's going to go into somewhere to get screws when he's out doing church and stuff, so we should hopefully get that up tomorrow afternoon. We do need to go and level Mum's deck too, and we might do that when the sun just gets a little bit lower. Go out and try and level it before we can put all the planks on it. So that's on the cards as well. But I also have to figure out food. So we had leftover egg bites and salad stuff for lunch. And they had it on leftover rolls. So they had salad and stuff on rolls. But I do have to do dinner as well, of course, because, and it's now 3 o'clock. So I pulled all that meat and stuff out to defrost so I can do a bunch of different things. Now, the ossobuco is going to need to be slow cooked. I have tried it in the pressure cooker, but the stovetop pressure cooker really doesn't, we end up with burning bits every time. So I think I'm going to do that in the slow cooker, so I'll need to start that early of a morning. Maybe I'll start that tomorrow morning. I wanted it to be defrosted enough to brown it before I stuck it in the slow cooker. I have chuck steaks, like chuck 1.2 kilo chuck pieces. I hadn't really decided what I wanted to do with that yet. There was a temptation to try sous videing it. I got sous vide from a viewer. It was on my wish list. I was going to buy it, hadn't got around to it. And someone bought it for me, so thank you very much. And I haven't had a chance to use it yet. I purposely vacuum sealed up some skin on chicken breast with soy, ginger, garlic to sous vide, and I did attempt to do it in the Thermomix because the Thermomix has a sous vide function, and it worked fine, and we had enough power and everything else doing it during daylight. But it's a very small bowl, and I feel like that's a lot of power usage and time required for not a lot of food. So I decided to get a standalone one, and I did a bunch of research and I picked one. I put it on my Amazon list as I'm going to get it eventually, because I looked at all the research on the power draw and everything, and if I start it with hot water, it really doesn't use very much power to maintain the hot water so long as the container is wrapped. So I was looking at some insulated containers on Amazon. I haven't got one yet, but what I'll do is I'll use a container and I'll wrap it in a towel if that's what it takes, just to keep that water at a decent temperature, and a lid on it to stop evaporation and to help with heat retention. I also need to get my dough proofer box that I use every winter cleaned and set up. It's over there somewhere, but it needs cleaning because I haven't used it since last winter and it's just been sitting gathering dust. So I need to clean that and set that up, which will make dough a lot easier now that the days are cooler. There's just a lot to do. So I did get a request for the kids to run out of hot chocolate powder, so I really should make some of that up. And what I was thinking is that I pulled some mince out to defrost as well, and I haven't made French onion meatballs in ages because I haven't had any dry French onion soup mix made up. And I think I've got everything here for that at the moment. I still haven't done that spice order. I'm so slack with actually hitting checkout on things because I put the stuff in the cart and then I go, but I might need something else. And so I wait and then I come out here and I cook and I go, I really need to do that order because I need that stuff. But anyway, I'm pretty sure I've got the French onion soup mix stuff here. Pretty sure. So I might pull all that out and see if I do, because I use that French onion soup dry mix in with the mince to make the French onion meatballs, which is really nice. What else did I pull out? I did pull out some chicken, some thighs and some breasts, I think, so that I'd have an options of whatever I wanted to do. I just don't know what I want to do, honestly. That's why I thought I'd record this week of trying to figure stuff out, because I'll probably book the groceries not next weekend, the weekend after, I think. So we've still got 2 weeks, that means, before I've got groceries again. But Daryl does have to go to Toowoomba on Friday for an appointment, which is why I won't do it this week. So I can get him to grab some apples for the kids and things like that to do another week, and then go the week after. I think I'll have to book accommodation, so I'll have to set it in stone and just make it work. But yeah, we haven't run out of anything other than fresh stuff. We got plenty of frozen veggies left, plenty of meat in the freezer. The kids ate through the apples that Daryl bought last week, so I think they're out of apples again. I think we're out of carrots, but we do have cabbage. I could just make okonomiyaki again for dinner. I did that the other night. I don't know if I did record it, didn't I? So I could just make okonomiyaki again with some of that chicken. We always enjoy it. but there is still cabbage. Or I could do a stir fry of some sort with the cabbage. Maybe I do a stir fry with some frozen veg and the cabbage and the chicken if it's defrosted. I don't know what's defrosted in there either, because I pile it all into a container. So in the bottom of the chest fridge I have a container, and that's where all the raw meat goes, all the frozen meat goes to defrost, to make sure that it's not leaking anywhere else in the fridge. But it does mean that it's the bottom of the chest fridge, and the chest fridge runs cold anyway. So it's all, so it's quite cold down there, and then there's a whole container of frozen stuff all together, which means that it does defrost at different rates depending on whether it's in the middle or on the outside edges, whether it's a whole piece of meat or whether it's a mince or whatever. So that might be my first thing, is to check that what's defrosted, to make that as the decision for what's for dinner tonight. Yep. This is what it's like at the end of the shopping period. Plenty of food, just work. Now, it's work all the time because I cook just nearly everything from scratch anyway. But at the beginning of the 6 weeks, there is a few of those convenience items, hot dog sausages and things like that. But mostly it's that there's fresh vegetables, so that dictates what we cook. So we do a lot of stir fries, a lot of curries, and a lot of things that I want the fresh vegetables for. And once I run out of the fresh vegetables, then it becomes a little bit more of a I don't mind frozen vegetables in certain things. Like I just eat them. I sprinkle a salt, bit of butter, and I'll just eat them as steamed veg. But they are definitely not my preference if I can have something else. But they do get eaten, and they're fine, and they're perfectly nutritional and all the rest of it. But it does make deciding on those meals a little bit more difficult. We also generally run out of potatoes because potatoes don't store very well here. In winter it gets too cold and they freeze and then they rot. And in summer they get too hot and they swelter and then they rot. I'm not a huge fan of canned potatoes. They're okay, but my biggest beef with it is that for a meal for 7 people, the amount of potatoes that you use in a meal is more than 1 jar's worth, and it's a lot of effort to can potatoes and then use a couple of jars. I do potato soups or vegetable soups with potato in them, or stews and things like that. That I really like. The convenience of that, nice soft meat, nice soft potatoes and everything else in a soup or a stew. But just on their own, they're not something I can. I have dry canned them, and I have canned them in water, and I have canned them in stock, and we've eaten them all, and they've been fine, but they're just a lot of effort, unnecessarily, I suppose, for the quantity that we eat in a meal, sort of thing, you know. So, anyway, let me go. Maybe I'll do the hot chocolate powder and just get it out of the way, and then I'm going to check that meat and see what's defrosted. Alright, it looks like I've found all the stuff for the French onion seasoning, so I'm going to mix it up, but I'm going to do the kids' hot chocolate first, like they asked. So I make this all the time. We do it in parts. We're going to do 2 parts sugar, so I'm going to do my parts as 200 grams. Whoops. So we want 400 grams of sugar, and we're going to grind that into icing sugar so that it's the same consistency as the coconut milk powder and the chocolate powder and everything else. So we're just going to pop a lid on so that it doesn't go everywhere, and run it at speed 10 for about 30 seconds. I only did about 20. It sounds like it's at the right consistency, and it's going to be dissolved anyway, so it doesn't need to be super fine like if you were using it in an icing. But it's fine enough that you can see it's dusting everywhere. So we've got that. So we then, from that, we want 1 part cocoa. So we're going to do 200 grams of cocoa. Depending on how strong chocolate you like it. This is for the kids. They prefer it to be chocolatey, but they do like it to be creamy. And it's done on hot water. If you were doing it on heated up milk or something, you could go slightly different on your ratios, but this is added to water. So then we want 1.5 to 2 parts of milk powder. I use coconut milk powder because we were dairy free, and that's what we still have. And in the certain things that I continue to use dairy free because I can, because they're used to it and they don't mind. We're going to do sort of 5 or 10 grams of salt. The salt pig needs filling again. So I'll do the 10 with this quantity, 10 grams of salt. Then we're going to add the coconut milk powder. I buy it in a 15 kilo bag from Hello Pure because it is dairy-free coconut milk powder. If you buy coconut milk powder, I think the AM brand and all that sort of thing in the supermarket, it actually has casein protein in it. It is not dairy-free. So it's fine for, you know, flavouring curries and stuff like that, but it's not actually a dairy-free milk powder. All right, and the last thing we add is a little bit of a starch. So I'm going to add, I think I've got cornstarch open. I use cornstarch or potato starch, it just depends on what I've got on hand. This helps to stop it from clumping, but also it thickens up a little bit in the hot water. So it adds a bit of thickening agent. If you make like an Italian hot chocolate or whatever, they have starch that you're heating and stirring to make it that thick. So for this quantity, I'm going to do about 100 grams. And then all we're going to do is give it some turbo so that it blends it through. So it just does some 1 second cycles, and then I will go and I'll go back into manual mode, and I'll do probably speed 5 for 20 seconds just to stir it up. Then I'll use a spatula to move it around. And we'll just make sure it's all blended, and then we'll get it into the hot chocolate jar. And we can shake it up a little bit in there if needed as well. So there we go, hot chocolate powder. And we've got shadows of the camera on everything at the moment, but I'll get this into their jar. All right, so that's done. Let's make the onion seasoning. This had pork seasoning in it before, so very similar ingredients. So I'm just gonna go with this jar. And I only have it written down in cup measurements. I probably have weighed it at some point and figured it out, but I don't have it written down on my notes here, so we're gonna go with cup measurements for the moment. I suppose I could have weighed it while I was doing it now. I suppose that would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Would save me finding cups all the time. And I have a pen here and my notebook, so my scales need a clean. Pen. So let's do our guesstimate of approximate measurement. So I've got here 1.5 cups of onion flakes. So that is half a cup, which ends up being about 60 grams. So we should end up with about 180 grams of onion flakes, which just makes it easier for me than finding, I know some people like cups. So I don't know if this recipe's up on my website yet, but maybe I need to do both on it. So 180 grams. All right, 3/4 cup of beef bouillon. So I use this Massel stock. Some debate about stocks and all the rest of it and the quantity of salt in them and everything else. But for some things, they just work. The chicken stock in my ramen seasoning and the beef stock in the French onion, yes, you can find replacements. You can use nutritional yeast and a few other seasonings and stuff. But honestly, it's just not the same. French onion soup is normally made on a beef stock. And so the flavors really, they just need that. So it just depends on how you feel about it in the end, I suppose. So let's see what 1/2 cup approximately weighs. We're going with 75-ish, 70, 75. So 3/4 cup. So if we say it's 70, we want another half, 105-ish grams for it. That's 104 at the end of my tin. I'm not opening a fresh tin for an extra gram. So 105 odd grams of that. we're going to do a couple of tablespoons of onion powder, which should be about 40 grams. I don't have my tablespoon here, so, but tablespoon weighs 15 to 20 grams, generally speaking. Though I suppose onion powder is not very heavy. Should I check it? I probably should check it. This is a problem with spoons and cup measures in my house, though, is you then have to find spoon and cup measures. Now, this is a half tablespoon, I believe, though the label has gotten off it. So, 2 of these says are 12 grams. So let's go with 25 grams of onion powder and call that good. $25 grams of onion powder. And then we have some smoked paprika, and we will probably do the same again, 25 grams. Though that was 1.5, 2, yeah, so we'll do 25 grams of each. Garlic powder, again the same. Garlic powder is one of those things that I have actually run out of in my spices, and am using store-bought stuff that costs far more than I'd like for the quantity that I use. But now, I don't know whether this Massel has garlic, and I think this one's low FODMAP, so I think it's actually garlic and onion free, which is partly why I started adding the garlic and the onion powder, if I remember correctly, because this is quite a good one, this Australian owned Massel. It's quite a clean one for, like, it still has yeast extract and it still has natural flavors and all that sort of thing, but it's not too bad in comparison to some bouillons. Garlic, then we want cracked pepper. Now I just cracked some pepper fresh, and I've got down here a half tablespoon of that as well, which ends up being 6. Let's bump that to 10. I like a little bit of, yeah, we'll do 10 grams of cracked pepper. And that is all we need. That is French onion soup base. Now, you can then adjust that by adding things like, this one, what was this one? Some thickeners and things like that, but we're not using it as an actual soup at the moment, though I might experiment on using it as a soup. But let me just clean the lid on this because it is gross. All right, so then we've got all our ingredients in there, and all we can do is shake them. And we have French onion seasoning mix rather than soup mix, because there's nothing in it. There's no, I could grind some rice bubbles, or I could use potato flakes, dehydrated potato flakes, or I could use anything like that to give it a thickening agent to be used as a soup. And there is plans. Last year I was supposed to do a whole bunch of dehydrated soups that I was going to share, and I did a bunch that the kids ate, but I never ended up sharing them. So let's see if we can actually get it done this year. But I didn't turn the French onion into a soup mix. I don't know if the kids would like it, but I might. Don't know. Might have to have a play. So let's get all these done back up. Alrighty, this tin's empty, so we've got French onion soup mix. So now I pulled the mince out. It wasn't quite soft enough to work with. Once it is, I'll show you what I'm doing with that. Right, so we have 2 kilos of mince. We've got 4 eggs in there, which should be enough. We're going to add our French onion soup mix. Now we want the equivalent of 2 of the packets of French onion mix, so you want about 70 grams of this one, because each packet is 35 grams. So we're going to go with 70 and pour that in. Then we're going to add some Dijon mustard and some breadcrumbs. Now we want around about, I don't know, half a cup to a bit more per kilo. Now sometimes I soak these in onion juice and stuff too, because what I normally do is put some fresh onion in here too. I normally mince a whole onion up and then I use that liquid. So I'm going to do that. So what I'm just going to quickly do is clear myself room again, because I haven't been out here since before. So pigsty as per usual. I'd used the Thermomix to mince up the beef because some of it wasn't quite defrosted. So I've got a dirty Thermomix bowl here, and I'm just going to put 2 whole onions in quarters in it and mince them all up till they're a puree, and add that to the mince mixture, and that will give some liquid to hydrate the breadcrumbs, but also just boost that onion flavour. I suppose I could have used onion jam too to give it a sweetness. I don't think I will. And then I'm going to add, some Dijon mustard and probably some Worcestershire. Let's get these minced. The oven's on. I bake my meatballs because it's just easier. So I will mince these. Yeah. All right, so we've just minced up the 2 whole onions, and we've got lots of liquid in there as well. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of milk or cream or something too if it just feels like it needs a little bit more moisture. But for the moment, we're using this.
I cracked this egg.
All right, you can crack it into the bowl, and I'll just use it in this spare egg. Sonnet was collecting eggs, accidentally cracked one, so we'll just add a 5th egg in here, which is fine. Dijon too. I might get her to grab it when she's done that for me.
Oh, got on my feet.
Can you grab the Dijon mustard out of the fridge for me, please? Extra egg in there. 4 of those big ones. Yep.
Small ones.
That time of night where the lighting is really shocking, we got going late today. So this is what it looks like, holds together well. All I'm going to do is put it into balls and place it. I normally use a small ice cream scoop or something so that they're somewhat even. Many years ago, I used to weigh each meatball because I needed to make sure that everything went as far as I needed it to go. And I got a lot of negative about that, about weighing meatballs. But when you don't have much in the way of food and you need to make sure there's enough for everyone to have it all, that's what you do. So I don't need to weigh them now, but I do like them to be consistently sized because they cook better at a consistent size as well. So if they're all evenly sized, then they will cook at evenly, temperature, time, all the rest of it. So we still try and get them as even as possible. These are probably a bit bigger than I would normally make them, but honestly, I'm just trying to get it done. At least the first tray in the oven, and then I'll cut up some potatoes to put on for mashed potato, and I'll steam some veg and we'll do some gravy. Because it's already 5:30. So I'm just going to keep going. And there we go. So the meatballs come out of the oven hot, looking like this. We've already served everyone up, so that's what the meatballs look like when they come out of the oven. And then we did some mashed potato, steamed veg, and gravy, and we're just using the Maggi rich gravy, the favourite one. I got a new gravy jug from Thermomix for selling Thermomixes. It's quite nice looking. So, and that is dinner. Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, so Daryl and some of the kids are at church. The twins are home with me. I've already been up since sort of 7 o'clock. I made a fresh batch of peach butter muffins for Daryl to take to church because they're having a church meeting today. I didn't record that. A very simple muffin mix like I normally do, but with peach butter as the add-in. They were quite tasty. And then I took one up to Mum warm so she could have one with her coffee for breakfast. I've had one with my coffee, and I sat down and got a few things sorted in my head and stuff what we need to do. So I've got all the meat that I've pulled out to defrost. I used the beef mince yesterday for the meatballs. Now I have some chicken breasts, some chicken thighs, and ossobuco and chuck. Now, I think the chuck, I had 2 big pieces. I think I'm going to dry brine them today, salt, pepper, garlic powder, and put them back in the fridge, and we'll smoke them tomorrow, and we'll have pulled beef tacos for dinner. I think that's what I've got planned for tomorrow. Today, I'm thinking I might put the ossobuco in the slow cooker, and we might have that over risotto. Apparently it's regularly served over Milanese risotto, which I used to make a fair bit, which is basically just a basic risotto. So we might have that with risotto for dinner. So I need to get that out and cooked. The other thing that I needed to get done was that I was reminded in the comments recently or on Facebook that my miso was now 12 months old. So I made 2 batches of miso, one using a brown rice ferment and one using a white rice ferment. I'm having a mind blank on the name of the fermentation of the rice. Koji, one with a brown rice koji and one with a white rice koji, to have a look at the difference of them. And they take about 12 months. So over the last 12 months, I've pulled them out a few times for everyone. And I've resalted them and things like that. I just pulled them out of the cupboard. I forgot to turn the camera on, but I just pulled them out of the cupboard. So we've got 2 tubs, and I've just taken the salt crust off the top of them. So here you go. So they were covered in baking paper, and then they had a salt weight and a bit of a salt crust on them, and I've just taken them off. So we've got the 2 different. They both look much the same colour. This one smells milder than this one, but I don't know. But anyway, we've got our miso. So this needs to be decanted into airtight jars now, because they've been left to ferment. So it's been left with baking paper, and yeah, I forgot to film it. So there was a salt crust over the top of it, a layer of baking paper, and then a weight that was a Ziploc bag basically full of salt on the top as well, to keep them healthy while they're fermenting. There was a little bit of white fuzz around the edge, which is perfectly normal with the salt crust. So I've scraped the salt crust and any white fuzz off, and now they're all good to go. So now I need to decant them into something else that is airtight so that they can be used. And I was thinking, I've got that chicken defrosted, so we might do a miso chicken stir fry or something. I don't know what yet, but we'll do that with some of this. Now, I didn't mark which one was which. They both have the same sort of a colour to them. They smell very similar. I'm not real sure. So we're just going to try them at some point anyway, and we'll try the different flavours. But this is like, I will not use, this is a couple of years of miso, realistically. You only use a couple of tablespoons. I love chicken wings or chicken legs done with a miso glaze. So that's something that I wanted this for. And it was just a fun thing to do, to figure out my own. It was done with soybeans, and you have to ferment them and crush them and soak them, and it was fun. Anyone who's been around has seen the process. I'll see if I can find the video where I started it, and I'll link it. Keeping footage of long-term things is not my forte. So I do need to decant these. So I've just cleaned these up. So as you can see, there's no mold or anything on the lids or anything else. Everything was pretty good. There was a little bit of white fuzz on top of the salt crust, but that's pretty normal too. I probably could leave them in the fridge. I don't know how airtight they are though. But I think I'll decant them into jars. I think I'll sterilise some jars and decant it into jars. So we have that to use as well. So I needed to get that out of the cupboard and checked. So I'm happy with those. Both of them have worked well. Let's do the beef chuck first. We will do equal parts salt, pepper, and garlic-ish. I don't have a whole lot of garlic powder, so we'll salt and pepper with a bit of garlic in it. Then we'll mix up and we'll coat those and put them back in the fridge until tomorrow, and I'll smoke them tomorrow. My camera wasn't on. So this is the 2 chuck pieces, mostly defrosted, not quite completely defrosted, which is why we're going to coat them and put them back in the fridge until tomorrow. I did talk about sous videing these as like a steak. It'd be really nice to be like sliceable steak. I think that would be delicious. But when I looked up all the recipes, it does say it takes 36 hours to do. And at the moment, I don't know what the power usage on the sous vide and stuff is. So I need to do some testing with the sous vide before I look at doing something like that. But at some point, that would be really nice. So for the moment, we can do these smoked and pulled, which will be really nice as well. I do have some corn tortillas, I think, in the from the groceries. I don't know whether they're still in date or not though. But we will figure out, do some sort of like a pulled beef taco-y type thing, I reckon, tomorrow night. So I'm just going to coat these, get them back in the fridge overnight, and then we will smoke them, like put them in the smoker first thing tomorrow morning. 1.2 kilos. They're only sort of 2.5 pounds. And most of the recipes are like a 4 to 5 pound recipe, so they probably won't take very long, 6 or 7 hours maybe, so that should be fine in the smoker. But yes, they would have been nice as like a sous vide, especially this one here looks like it would have been nice as a sous vide steak. But yeah, I'm not playing with that yet because I don't know timelines for that. So let's just get these dry brine first. All right, so we've got approximately equal parts salt, pepper and garlic there. All I'm going to do is I could pat it dry. I don't think I'm going to bother because it's still not quite defrosted anyway, so it's going to lose a bit more moisture. So it's not going to be perfectly dry crusted, but it's still going to be better than if it wasn't. So we're just going to coat it with that salt. And you want to sort of pat rather than rub. I know I was just sort of rubbing it then. You want to more pat it in than rub it to create the right kind of surface. So that's all we're doing. Patting it on. And then realistically you probably want it open in the fridge rather than enclosed, but I don't really have the space to do that at the moment. So we're going to put this lid on. I just won't put it on all the way and stick it in the bottom of the fridge. And then I'll pull it out first thing in the morning when I'm like having my coffee and stuff, and let it come up to room temperature a little bit. And then I'll get it going in the smoker, which I'll bring you along for anyway. So let's just get all the surface. I'm just trying to make as little mess as possible because I've got lots to get done. So there we go. Just going to put that like that, and then just like that, sort of off a little bit in the fridge to let it sit overnight. All right, next thing, I've got the ossobuco here. So beef ossobuco, beef shank, whatever you want to call it. We're going to salt and pepper this, and we're going to fry it off in a heavy base pan. Once we do that, we're going to add some carrots and some onion and stuff, and a bit of stock to deglaze the pan, and that's what we're going to pour into the slow cooker. Now, when I bought the slow cooker, I had lots of debate over which slow cooker I was going to buy and all the rest of it. I didn't get one with the sear function because I don't want to use the electric power for that. But I probably should have got one of the ones that had the pots that could be seared on the stove and then added to the slow cooker. But I was going for cheap because I wasn't sure how much I was going to use it and all the rest of it anyway. We will do what we have to do. We will sear these in this. I've got a cast iron pan going. We'll sear these. We'll take them out and put them in the slow cooker skin, and then we'll cook off the onion, garlic and carrots in the fond from the beef, and we'll deglaze it with some liquid, and then we'll just pour it over the top of the slow cooker. So everyone has their thing with slow cookers. You either cook it off, like you put everything in raw and you're happy with that, or you do some cooking beforehand. I prefer to do a little bit of cooking beforehand, but that's fine. And I would do this in the oven as a braise rather than a slow cooker, but my oven's just too hard to control temperature. And now that we've got our power sorted, our electricity is free. It's, you know, it's not, we paid for all the solar stuff and all the rest of it, but it is free in comparison to paying for gas. If we can get our wood stove going at some point, I could use that, which again would be free in that it only took the labor of firewood cutting, but you know what I mean. So we've got, I should have got a bigger board. Anyway, we've got these big pieces of ossobuco. This is from the half a cow I bought. It's lovely, lovely meat. So we're going to salt and pepper this. Standard sea salt here that I'm going to sprinkle generously each piece, front and back. And then I cracked some black pepper yesterday using my Tri-Best blender. So it's fresh cracked, but I cracked it in bulk because I knew I was going to be using it for a few things. So we're just going to generously pepper this as well. I'm using the wrong hand here just have to swap hands. Both sides. Just going to have to clean this bench again. I'm really short on space at the moment because of everything that we're doing and adjusting. Everything is just crowding me out at the moment because we have bench space that's unusable while we do the walls and stuff. We ran out of screws. I think I mentioned we ran out of the screws that we need for the wall. Daryl was going to go to Pittsworth today to grab the screws, but it turns out we're missing a few other bits and pieces, so he's going to have to go to Bunnings tomorrow, which wasn't the plan. We weren't going to go into Toowoomba early this week, but have to do what we have to do. All right, so pepper, salt, both sides. Now we're just getting this pan piping hot. I'll put a bit of oil in it, and we just want a whole lot of colour on the meat and some fond in the bottom, and we'll cook the other stuff off in it. So let's get this out of the way. I'll get another small board and I'll start cutting the veggies up while I'm waiting for this pan to get nice and hot. Eventually, I don't know how much I've spoken about the plans, but eventually all this stuff on the back of the bench here will be on a separate shelf. We'll then have this whole stainless steel bench to use for prepping. It won't have all this stuff stored on it. We're getting there, slowly. All right, another board now. Obviously, it has been 6 weeks since we've done our shop, so there's a few marks on things that have been in the bottom of the fridge, but all perfectly cut-offable and salvageable. So, and this is just the base for our tomato sauce for our ossobuco anyway. Like, this is just our, what is it called? A sofrito? So I don't know how it's pronounced. I've read it many times. The Italian mirepoix, basically. So I suppose the Italian version of mirepoix, which is normally got celery in it as well. I don't have any celery left at the moment. So we're just going to do small diced carrot like that, and diced onion, and I'll pull some of my elephant garlic out and we'll just cook that off in the bits from the beef. All right, so we're browning the ossobuco till it looks lovely, lots of colour on it. So we're doing that before sticking it in the slow cooking pan. I've got all the onion cut up here. I'm just doing some rough chopped elephant garlic as well, which we will cook off when the meat is done, and then I'll show you what I throw into the slow cooker. All right, so the beef is all done. So can't get it in shot. I'll show you in a minute. Beef is all done in the slow cooker pot. Now we've got the carrot, onion, garlic. We're going to let it sort of just go a little bit translucent, pull up all the fond from the bottom. Just like that. Fry that off. We're going to add some tomato paste and we're going to fry that off with this because it's always nicer when you fry off your tomato paste. So 2 good dollops. We've got, it's probably, I don't know, half this jar, so half a cup worth. And we're going to fry that off with the veggies so you get a nice smell on it. It's picked up all the bits off the bottom, which is nice. I got some balsamic vinegar because I don't have wine in the house, so I always just do a little bit of a spritz of balsamic vinegar. It gives it a similar sort of acidity as wine. And then what I do is I balance it out with a bit of homemade Worcestershire sauce. So we got those 2 flavours in there. Look how rich that looks. All right. And then I have a 800-gram tin of crushed tomatoes. So we're going to put that in here as well. And we're going to bring it up to a simmer. I'm wondering if I might need a jar of passata as well, just for the amount of liquid I might need to cover this beef. But what I want to do is I want to bring this liquid up to a simmer before pouring it over the beef, just because it takes less power for the slow cooker than if it's already starting off warm. So at this point, I kind of want to add something else. Do I want to add stock, or do I want to add some passata? I think there'll be plenty of juices that come out of the beef, so we probably want the thicker quantities, the thicker liquid. So I think I'll add a passata to this, but maybe I think maybe I'll pour it over the beef first, because I might not need more liquid. I don't know. I'm winging this one. There was a fair bit of beef on purpose, because there's not a lot of meat. Like, you scrape all the marrow out and all the meat off and then you pull the bones out. It doesn't leave a whole lot behind, generally speaking. So, all right, so this is simmering. So we'll turn this off. And then this is what the pot looks like at the moment. All the browned meat in it. I need my tea towel so I can lift this other pot. Here we go. And let's see what sort of liquid quantities this ends up being. It might be enough, actually. We'll see. I'll turn it on, because when I turn it on, everything will settle a little bit. And then we will see quantities then. And if I have to top up a bit more liquid, I will. But everything's going to settle once the pan is on for half an hour or so, and we'll see where the liquid level is on the beef. We don't need it covering it, but we do need it sort of, halfway up the bowl to keep the moisture in. So that's all I'm going to do. I haven't seasoned this in any other way, but there was plenty of salt and pepper on the beef. All that tomato, we've got the balsamic, we've got the Worcestershire, so it should be pretty good as is. But I will check it out after it's been cooking for a while. Check the sauce out, and then we will do something with this for dinner tonight. Whether we serve it over pasta or over, as said, the Milanese risotto apparently is very common to serve ossobuco over. Polenta as well, apparently. I don't think I've got any polenta at the moment, but we will decide then. So that's dinner going on for tonight, and dinner for tomorrow night is in the fridge for smoking. Don't know what I'm doing for lunch yet. I have to have a think. All right, so I'm thinking about what I'm doing for lunch and what else I've defrosted and what else is going to need using. So I pulled out 1 kilo of thighs and 1 kilo of breasts of chicken. I think I might do the thighs up how I normally do it with the cowboy candy marinade and fry them off. And then we've got that chicken to use, and I might make a batch of flatbreads. So I might just do a quick flatbread, the chicken, and we've got some cabbage that I can turn into some coleslaw and stuff. So I'll do a fresh mayo, some coleslaw, cheese, chicken, flatbreads for lunch. Ossobuco's in the slow cooker for dinner tonight. And then we can do something with the pulled beef, smoked pulled beef tomorrow. And then the night after, the chicken breast should be defrosted, and we might do a lemon butter chicken dish, which I really like. And I might get Daryl to get some fresh broccolini or some sort of winter veg when he goes into Toowoomba tomorrow to have with that. I think that's what I'm going to do, because I really like that lemon butter chicken served just over a big bed of green vegetables. Is always really nice. So we might do that. So yeah, I'm going to do a batch of my flatbreads. It's on Patreon. I think it's on the website too. I'm not real sure, but super simple recipe for flatbreads that work out really well, especially if I give them time to proof. Sometimes I don't, because I'm slack, but it's only 11:15. So I don't imagine Daryl will be home for another half hour, 45 minutes. So if I make the dough now, it'll rest for plenty of time, and it'll be some really nice, puffy, soft, warm flatbreads when I fry it off. So I'll do that, put that aside, and then I'll marinate the chicken and put that aside, and then we'll fry it all off and get that sorted for lunch. Orpheus did come out, or Lorcan, one of the twins came out and requested that I make some muffins for the next few days. So like I did those big bulk batches of muffins a couple of weeks ago that worked really well for them to then have them for days on end. So I need to do that today as well. I might do some more peach butter ones, and we'll do some raspberry chocolate chip ones, or just plain chocolate chip ones, or whatever. So I don't think I've got any of the bulk muffin mix left. So what I'll do is I'll make a big jar of that up, and then make a whole bunch of muffins and cook them off, and they can go in containers in the fridge, and the kids will eat from them over the next week whenever they want, which is fine. Other than that, so the other things that we need to get done today that aren't kitchen related is that Mum's tank got delivered. When it got delivered, they didn't have the fittings attached to it, and someone is coming back to fix the fittings on it. So it needs to be placed this afternoon, because they're coming back on Monday afternoon. So we need to get the spot where we're going to put the tank flattish and get the tank placed so that the guy can come out and put the fittings in the tank that weren't supplied. And then we'll get a load of water in for that tank. She's still fine with water. She's still on that 1,000 litres that we filled up originally, and we're looking at leaving that IBC there as her overflow. So if there is ever a need for the tank to overflow into something, it can go there, and she can use that for garden water in the meantime when she decides what she's want to do. We'll leave it there for the moment. We might repurpose it later. It is a black one. We'll see how we go. But for the moment, we're just going to leave it there, and we're just going to set up the tank off to the side. We don't want to block the breezes to the house too much, so we're adjusting where we're putting it. So that has to be done this afternoon. Other than that, the kitchen is in a little bit of a stop work, because we need to get that wall done before we can rearrange this kitchen bench. And then once this kitchen bench is rearranged, we can rearrange shelving and things like that. So until Daryl goes to Toowoomba tomorrow and gets the correct screws to put that wall up, we can't do much else there. The decking's the same. We were out there adjusting the decking yesterday, but it's not quite level, and the ground is off enough that we're going to need some pavers for one end of the deck to lift the feet up. We can't, even with the adjustment of the feet, we can't get it level enough. So we're going to get some pavers to place under the feet at the forward end of the house, because it's just that uneven, and that will create the ability to level off the patio, and then it'll only be a couple of hours job to nail all the decking on there, and then Mum can get her washing machine out onto the deck and covered in a tarp and stuff, so that she can do her washing at her leisure rather than me doing it for her, which is frustrating for her to have to wait on me to do that. So yeah, so that all needs to be done Monday, Tuesday rather than today. But yeah, always plenty going on. We also have some big D&D jobs, so I've been doing that, a few hours of that every night as well. And I do need to do some editing. I need to figure out my routine again. I lost the routine, and I just haven't managed to get back into it. And yeah, I need to work on that. So let's get the flatbread dough done anyway. I'm going to boil the kettle to get some warm water, just so that it proofs nice and quickly. And yeah. So super simple for the flatbreads. We do 400 grams of water, 100 grams of oil, which is what gives it that nice fluffy feeling. So these are like when I make a tortilla, you have lots of lard and stuff in it, which gives it that softness. The oil in this does similar, but they don't roll out as thin. 20 odd grams of yeast, similar of salt, and then we're going to put just a tiny, child needed spelling help, a tiny sprinkle of sugar, like 10 grams, just to help with that yeast and to make it really nice and fluffy. And then we add 800 grams of flour. Now I'm using, oh, I'm moving you around. I'm using the Costco baker's flour. All-purpose flour works just as well for this, and then because I'm using the Thermomix, all I do is I put it on speed 5 to bring it together till the sound changes. Which was only about 8 seconds. And if I'll show it to you, I wouldn't normally take it off now, but I'll show it to you. It's brought it all together into sort of a rough dough. And then we stick it on dough mode. You can do this in the KitchenAid. This is a small enough batch that it works in the Thermomix, so I tend to do it in the Thermomix. And it's not a wet dough, it's quite a nice feeling dough, so it's easy enough to get out of the Thermomix jug as well. So I knead it for a couple of minutes, and then we will let it rest in our dough mat for as long as we do, basically. And then I will ball it up into little sort of 50-ish gram balls and let them rest as well. So we'll get it in here, we'll get it put aside, and then we will marinate the chicken next. I'm just trying to clear myself some space. Alright, doesn't need to be kneaded heavily, this dough, but it's brought it into a ball. So all I'm going to do now is put it out on the mat. If you have problems with your dough sticking to your Thermomix blades like that, what you can do is you can actually put it back on and flick it to speed 5 for a second or two. And it will flick the large majority of that dough off to the edges of the bowl. See? And then you just grab it from the edges of the bowl. So it's not going to get all of it, but it gets a large majority of it off. So we've got a bowl here. All I'm going to do is bring it together. There's a little bit of oil on my dough mat, a little bit of oil on the dough, and then we just wrap it and put it aside, and it will proof in there. So now I need my board back and my chicken. And so I've got chicken thighs. I'm going to cut these up into small strips and we'll get them marinated. So these thighs, oh, silly of me, these thighs were from the outlet. So they're not necessarily in whole pieces, and they're smaller than normal, which is why they were from the outlet. Like, that's why they get to the boxes in the outlet, is because they're not quite perfect. So all I'm doing is pulling them out, flattening them, and cutting them into little strips, because I find that I like this the best when I'm doing the cowboy candy marinade and stuff. Lots of surface area to get the caramelization on. And it just works really well. So that's what I do with all of it, strips, and then I will marinate it. Still some ice crystals in it. It's not frozen, but it's definitely still got some ice crystals in it. So it could have stayed in the fridge for the next meal, but this is the meat that I like the most done like this for flatbreads and stuff. So breast is a bit dry to do like this. All right, so let's just throw, where are we? Let's just throw some spices in here. We have the end of a jar of cowboy candy here. So we'll use that up. All right. I have some smoked paprika, which we always use liberally. We have some salt and some pepper. That, a little bit of garlic powder. And we should be good. So then we add some oil or some lemon juice or something if we need to, or I could add some Worcestershire sauce. We'll have a look at how it goes. It's probably a smaller amount than I would normally use of cowboy candy, but I'm not going to open another jar just to top up this at the moment. So I think I'm going to put a little bit of homemade Worcestershire in here just to add a little bit more liquid. Like that. And there, I'm happy with the colour and the texture. All right, so now I'm just going to cover this. I'm going to leave this and the bread for probably 20-25 minutes. And then I'll come out and I'll divide the bread up and we'll start working on cooking this off and all the rest of it. But yeah. Alright, so the dough's been resting for however long it was, so it's lovely and malleable and soft. So all I'm going to do is break off some little rounds, put them into circles and place them until I'm ready to roll them out. Cover them with a bit more oil so they don't dry out. And they'll rest. You want to rest them for another 10-15 minutes if you've got the time. If not, you can roll them out. But the longer you rest them for, the easier they are to roll out. The thinner you can get them, the more you have control over the shape of them and things like that. So if you've got the time, it's worth it. If you don't, perfectly edible anyway. Even this first rest, this dough can be used straight away if you want to. But you do get a better texture and a better control of the dough if you let it rest in between all the steps. And you can do these dough balls at whatever size you want. I like to do them fairly small, and then I can fit a few on the hot plates at the same time. And the kids like to have a couple. As I've said many times, it doesn't matter if I did one at 150 grams or them at 50 grams, they'd still probably want to eat 2 or 3 no matter what size they were. So I tend to go on the smaller side so that they still get the feeling like they're getting those multiples of them, but they're not overeating. So I'll get all these shaped, I'll spray them with a bit of oil, I'll wrap them back up again, and then I'll probably start cooking this chicken off. All right, we got the chicken cooking off in a couple of batches. I'm going to do a really simple mayo. We got 3 egg yolks, some mustard, some lemon juice, some cowboy candy, bit of salt, and that's it. So we're just going to do the normal. Blend this up, drizzle in olive oil, and we'll have some mayo. I'll have to shred up some cabbage too. All right, mayo done. Simple, thick, nice, luscious mayo. I really love homemade mayo. It's one of my favorite things. So that is done. I've got the second pan heating up. I'm still cooking the chicken off. And so these are the balls. They're not really nice and malleable. They're already oiled, so they just need to be, and you can put them into whatever shape you want. Now, I tend to do them into this sort of shape because I'm using square pans, and this lets me get 2 to 3 on the surface of the pan. So I tend to do this oval shape. You can do whatever shape you want. And the dough is, because it's been rested, you can just manipulate it into whatever shape you want, and it works. In regards to cooking them, I say all the time, If you put some oil in the pan, you get some crispy spots, the bubbling, crispy, darker spots, which I really like. If you do it dry, you get more soft like a tortilla. So personal preference on that. So I'm going to cook these off. I'm going to get this chicken done. I'm going to get some cabbage shredded. I'll show you it when it's done. Here we go, share plate. So we've got some chicken, some shredded fine cabbage, some mayo, some cheese on the flatbread. So the chicken ended up looking like this, marinated, caramelized chicken thighs. The flatbreads end up looking like this, gorgeous, soft. Some have some crispy bits, which I like, but they're completely roll-upable, soft flatbreads. We had mayo, finely shredded cabbage, grated cheese. Everyone can serve themselves now. All right, so we got the tank placed this afternoon. I didn't get the muffins done, so I will do them tomorrow. So I'm just going to do a quick baked risotto to go with this ossobuco. So I'm just going to cut up an onion roughly and put it in a Dutch oven pan that has a lid. We'll cook this off. I'll get some garlic as well. And we'll just get all this in the pan, cooking off. I normally use some bacon here too, but I don't have any defrosted. And realistically, we're having it with the meat too, so it's not a big deal. So I'm going to cook some bacon, some garlic, and then I've got chicken stock off the shelf. And basically we will just cook this off, add the rice, toast the rice, and then add the stock, bring it to a boil, and stick it in the oven. After our discussions about putting some recipes up on Patreon, I think I'm going to attempt to interpret some of my notes and get some stuff up like this baked risotto. I think this is a fantastic one. The full recipe is in one of my videos about when I got the oven, one pot meals or something. The Thermomix makes a fantastic risotto, but it's not very large. It's fine as a side. It'd be fine if it was just, you know, a little bit of a side, but for this dish, it's going to be the main realistically, and all the meat and everything will be the richness added to it. So we will just do this. We will add some of my roasted garlic butter towards the end and some parmesan, and it will just be a creamy rice dish. So we'll start with this. So we're just browning that garlic and the onion. It's going to cook in liquid for half an hour, so it doesn't need to be too much. And then we're going to add around about 3/4 of a kilo. It's like 750 odd grams. And we're going to toast that off in that little bit of oil. I think I can get away with a full kilo in here. I think it's pushing it, but I'm not adding anything else to it. So I think I'm just going to go the whole kilo of arborio. And yeah, we're just going to toast it off a little bit in that oil, like that. And then we're going to add our chicken stock. And we will add some water as well. We want about there, about 3/4 full. And then that will leave room for expansion. Sometimes I add a little bit of chicken bouillon at this point too. I'm not going to, because I think that we don't need that extra flavour boost, because with the meat and stuff is really flavourful and stuff. So we're going to bring this up to a boil, put the lid on it. I've got the oven preheating, and once this is up at a boil, lid on it, goes in the oven for about 30-35 minutes. And then we add the garlic butter and cheese to it. And then it's done. All right, so I've pulled the middle bones out of the ossobuco, out of the shanks. I'm pretty sure there was 8 shanks in here, 8 pieces. So I've got 7 of the small bones. Now there was a really big piece with a big bone attached that still has some meat hanging onto it. I'll just let Daryl eat off that bit, but the rest of it is all just chunks of meat and chunks of veggie and onion and carrot and stuff, and there might be a few little bits of bone in there, so they just need to be careful. But basically we have a lovely rich ragu type dish. So we've got this big bone here that still has some meat stuck on it. Daryl, as I said, Daryl can pick through that, but the rest of it is all just big chunks of fall apart meat and some veggies and stuff. So we're just going to have that with the risotto. There's some big chunks of garlic in there that I'll just smoosh a little bit, but they'll be lovely and tender because they've been simmering in this all day. This is what the risotto looks like when it comes out. I purposely did it a little bit dry because we've got heaps of liquid in the ossobuco, so that's why I went with that 1 kilo of rice and the liquid. If I had have gone with the 750, it'd be a wetter, a looser risotto, but this will be a good texture with the ossobuco. So I added probably 200 grams of butter in cubes and a couple of handfuls of Parmesan cheese, and that's done. So now we're just going to serve it up and put the ossobuco on top. So what are we? Monday morning. Beef has been sitting in the fridge all night, so I'm going to put this, I've preheated the smoker, and I'm going to stick this in the smoker, and then I'll come back with everything else I'm doing. Alright, so the has been going for about 2.5 hours. We are going to transfer it to a tray and cover it. So I've got about 2 cups of water there with some beef bouillon in it. I've got a couple of nice looking onions left, and all I'm going to do is peel these and cut them into nice thick rings to put on the bottom of the tray. And I've just got a cast iron tray here, so I'm just gonna big thick rings like that and lay it out across the whole tray. We're going to pour the beef stock over it as well, and then we're going to put the meat in it and we're going to foil it. So at the moment my smoker is out on the back deck, which is always inconvenient for filming. So what I'll do is I'll set this up, and then I'll probably take the tray and the foil with me out the back. I'll take a photo before I stick it back in the smoker and put it in here. Each piece of chuck is about 1.2 kilos, which is I think about 2.3 pounds ish, maybe a little bit more. So we're working on that sort of a weight. I'm going to put my probe in the beef as well, and I'm going to bump the smoker up just slightly too. It's on about 120. I'll probably bump it up to like 140 maybe, because the ambient temperature of the smoker I have found is always a bit less than the actual temperature. So we've just got that beef bouillon stock liquid. I'm going to put the meat on here, foil over the top, probe in. So where are my probes? So a probe in the beef with my digital temperature thing, and then we will let it go till inside is but I'm going to double check for Chuck what the best temperature is to go for internal, and we will take it to that, and that will be done for tonight whenever it gets done. So it's 1:45 now. Anyway, I'll update you, but I'll take a photo of this before I put it back in the smoker. Alright, the beef is in the smoker. It's still going. Daryl's bringing home the salad stuff, and I'm just going to turn it into like taco type things. So I've been doing a whole bunch of schoolwork with the kids and things like that. I'm now going to quickly mix up the bulk muffin mix. I'm going to go with 5 dozen worth. I found these IKEA containers that I was using the glass jars, and I was really struggling to put quantities in there. Ideally you want it in like 6 dozen worth rather than 5 dozen worth. Do you reckon I could get 6 dozen in here? I reckon I probably could. So that would mean that we want 1.8 kilos of flour. I put 1.8 kilos of flour in there, but actually I back that off because I put some protein powder in here as well. And I want about a scoop per batch. So we want about 40 grams per batch. If we got 6 here, we want 240 grams. So I'm going to back this off a bit to be, what did I want? 1800, so 1560. And I'll put 240 grams of the protein powder in here. Here, I've got a peanut butter toffee vanilla ice cream one. Sounds good to me. So we'll bring this up to the 1800, which should be around about 6 scoops. Just a little bit more than 6 scoops, but I wasn't measuring those scoops real clearly. So 1800 grams of flour. Now we need sugar. Now each batch of muffins has 110, each dozen has about 110 grams of sugar per, plus whatever the add-ins are that we add in. So we want 660 for the 6 batches, which seems an awful lot, but it does make 6 dozen muffins. I reckon I could probably back that off a little bit though. But it depends on what you're mixing in, because sometimes I mix things in that have no sweetness to them at all. So, you know, anyway, we'll stick with what we've been doing. We want baking powder and bicarb, and we want about 10 grams per batch of each. So we want about 60 grams of each. You could use self-raising flour instead of adding these afterwards, of course. I just happen to only buy plain flour. Baking powder and bicarb, I like to use both. All right, so 60 grams of each, and then we want about half that of salt, so about 30 grams of salt. And I could fit heaps more in here by the looks of it. Oh, goodness me. All right, so that is 6 dozen muffins worth, so I could easily do another batch of that. I won't at the moment because I'll probably make 3 or 4 dozen now, and then they'll leave a couple of batches for the kids to use later. So for the moment I'm just going to leave it at that, and we'll make up some now. Alright, so to actually do the muffin mix, let me get everything situated. I'm a bit of a mess today. To do the muffin mix, we want 420 to 435-ish grams of the dry mix. That has all been, and if you've put it away and then you've pulled it back out again, I always make sure to give it a bit of a stir up. So, right, so we've got 430 grams. We're going to add 125 grams of oil to that. I use this mild olive oil for just about everything. You can use vegetable oil. Coconut oil doesn't work as well because it's solid, so it doesn't blend as well when it's cold. Peanut oil, whatever you want to use, any sort of neutral flavored oil. I use the olive oil because it is neutral flavored, the mixed blended one. We want an egg, we want 250 grams of milk and some mix-in. So just a moment. Let's throw these together. Had to go hunting for a bunch of stuff. Anyway, my kitchen is just worse than normal. So 250 grams of milk. I'm just using some UHT milk because we've got plenty at the moment. We're going to put an egg in. And then we're going to do some mix-ins. So we do a cup of mix-ins generally. I have apple butter here. What I'd really like to put in with this is some pecans, but I can't get to that freezer at the moment. It is covered in stuff. Wondering coconut might work well. Shredded coconut here. Now, realistically, using the apple butters and stuff, I probably should have changed my liquid ratios a little bit. And I probably should have been working more on the recipe that I did that had the peach and banana in it rather than my normal dry mix-ins, but all about experimenting. So we're going to use half a cup each of apple butter and coconut. I might add a little bit more cinnamon in here too. All right, so that's apple butter. I'll put a dash of cinnamon in there as well. And let's mix this up. Could potentially get away without the egg with the butter in there. This might be more of a cake consistency than a muffin consistency, but we're going to give it a go. All right, disturbed again. The boys found a baby snake and wanted me to check what sort of snake it was. All right, so this is the batter. I think it'll be fine as a muffin, cupcakey muffin type thing. So we're just going to go ahead with that. I desperately need some new muffin tins. So that is on my list of things to buy. I just keep putting it off. And because I use muffin papers, it's not such a big deal, but these tins are horrible and I can't get them clean. So get these cooked. I'll do a batch with peach butter and chocolate chip maybe, and just, yeah, I'll just do a few different varieties, probably 4 dozen of them. It's getting late and the meat is almost... I think I'm going to leave this and I will do another couple of dozen or more tomorrow. Check out what the texture of these is like as they cool with the apple butter in it, because I've got some peach butter here to use as well. And yeah, go from there. So that's the first 24 done. They will be eaten fairly quickly in this household. But yeah, so it's now 3:30. The meat's pretty much done. So I think I'll just clean up and get ready for dinner. Decided to crack one open because I couldn't help myself, and they look pretty good. They're not sticking to the papers too badly. They're nice and moist, nice and soft. So I'm pretty happy with those ones. All right, had muffins, very happy with the muffins. I think I would do a double batch at a time and use, because what I did was I used like a cup of, or half a cup of the apple butter in the first batch and then just put whatever was left in the second one. I think I'd just use the whole one of those salsa jars in a double batch to make it easier, because there is a little bit of a consistency difference between the two batches. So anyway, the beef has hit 94 internal. So I'm going to have a look at it. See if it pulls apart like I want. It doesn't look like it's going to. So it might need to go in for a bit longer, which is why I wanted to check it. Let's have a look. I did just turn the smoker off, mind you, so I might need to turn that back on. It doesn't look done the way I want it. It's not quite there, is it? We sort of want it pull apart for the tacos, just to make it easier to... And it's almost there, but not quite. But it says internal temperature of 94 on that probe. Let's double check a couple of other points. Maybe it's just that I've got that probe situated not quite. So that's saying 89. That bit there saying 96. So that's saying 96 as well. It's saying 93. It feels a lot softer to push through that bit. So I'm not sure. I think I'm going to flip it over. Actually, that one was already flipped, wasn't it? There we go. I'm going to flip it, adjust the probe to a different spot in there. And then I think I'm just going to wrap it and put it back for a bit. It's 4 o'clock, so got another hour really that it could go in. So we'll just do it and keep an eye on the temperature. All right, I adjusted the location of the probe, which gave it a 10 degree less degrees, which is, so I put it back in and it's come back up, but it still looks like there's some spots that just might not be. It says 93, so it's fine. I'm gonna put it in here and let it rest for 10 or so, and then I will look at shredding it up and we'll figure out dinner. Probably too spiced. All right, so it definitely isn't quite pulling, but it is perfectly tender for these little strips, and they will be fantastic for the tacos. So I'm just dicing it up a little bit to make it easy on the tacos, but it's lovely and tender and fall apart. It's just not quite pulling. I'm not real sure why. The temperature gauge said that it was at the 94. That's what the recipe said. I do think I normally take it to about 99 though when I'm doing pork, so who knows. Anyway, it's very tasty, it's very tender, and it's just slicing up a bit like brisket rather than being pulled beef, which is not exactly a bad thing. So I'm going to cut all this up. I'm going to put a little bit of the juices with it, and I'll put some of the see, this one's falling apart a bit more, this end bit here. I'll put some of the onion on a plate as well, because Daryl will probably really like that with his meat. And then I've got some tomato, grated cheese, and just some salad mix. And I've got some corn tortillas. I'm going to warm them up, and we're just going to have that for dinner. I could open a jar of salsa off the shelf as well. Whatever everyone wants, they can have with their tortillas, with their corn tortillas. And yeah, then there'll be leftovers for tomorrow as well. And I've got that chicken defrosted for tomorrow night, and Daryl picked me up some of the broccolini to use with either lemon butter chicken or a miso chicken of some sort, or something to use over that broccoli, which will be nice. So yeah, so I'm just going through and just cutting these up, and certain parts fall apart, but some of it is just still sliceable. I don't mind.